The internet, television, YouTube, loaded with burnouts. All kinds of burnouts. Crazy burnouts, donuts, the whole 10 yards, right? Some of our brothers, like down under, have actually turned it into a competitive sport, right? Burnouts. But when we were out running Bottle Rocket the other night, and then later on reading the comments, I was stupefied by exactly how little is known about the purpose of a burnout. You know, not just the ones you do for fun. I do them for fun too. We did that video, how to do a bitch and burnout. They're a kick. But when you're at the drag strip, or, you know, in Mexico, the burnout serves an important purpose. And depending on the type of tire, the type of car that you're dealing with, they all take different approaches. So I'm going to leave like big tire, lightweight, high horsepower cars out of the equation. I'm just going to talk about basic street strip type of car, the kind of thing that most people deal with, and the kind of tires that most people deal with. A couple of terms you need to understand. There's burnout, but then there's also cleaning the tires. Cleaning the tires is an important process that you go through, regardless of whether you're going to do a burnout or not. And I'll explain what that is in a minute. But the first thing you need to understand is that if you're dealing with a regular street tire, a normal, you know, high wear, you know, a tire that's intended to get 30,000 miles and get traction in the dry and the wet, and all, you know, a street tire. What you have to understand about these things is you don't do a big smoky burnout. You do clean them off. So before I talk about cleaning them off, let's understand something. Every drag strip has a water box. And that water box will generally have a trough. And that trough is where cars that do stationary burnouts, generally big tire cars that do stationary burnouts, will dig you know, a little trough for themselves. That'll fill with water, an inch or two of water. And then you'll have a wet area out in front of it. When you're running a treaded street tire, like this one here, never go through the water. You always go around the water. Why is that? These treads right here will catch the water. And even though you're doing a burnout with the thing where you're going to clean the tires off, that water will still settle in. There'll still be moisture in here. Also, as you're rolling through, some of that water will get thrown up into the wheel opening of the wheel well of the car, and can possibly drip down as you're staging the car, as you're rolling forward. Again, putting water on the thing. When you're running a tire like this, you go around the water. Now you also generally don't want to do a burnout. You want to clean the tires off. Now here's the difference between a burnout and cleaning the tires off. A burnout is when you sit there and smoke the tires, they get hot, smoke comes off of the tires. No, burnout, right? Cleaning the tires is just taking off the surface, you know, whatever's stuck to the surface of the tire, the top layer of rubber. And generally speaking, all you're going to do here is just spin the tire to the point that it starts to smoke. As soon as it starts to smoke, stop. Don't go any further. Tires like this are not intended to be operated in an overheated condition. When you get a tire like this, a hard compound, regular, normal street tire, hot, two things happen. There are oils in the rubber that will start to sweat out of it, and that'll actually make the tire slick. Also, the rubber doesn't gum up the way, let's say, a soft compound drag tire would. The rubber comes off in like shavings and balls, right? Little balls. And you'll see the difference. You look at a car that does burnouts with drag slicks, and you'll see there's rubber just stuck to the side of the car, like gooey rubber. And you see a car that does burnouts with a street tire like that, and you'll see just like flakes and specks. That's the difference. When you do a burnout, a smoky burnout, with a normal, everyday street tire, you're working against yourself. And I found this out the hard way. Actually, people kept telling me I used to do these crazy burnouts way back in the day, right? Because I thought I was going, you know, this is the thing to do. Finally, somebody says, why are you doing that? You're killing yourself. Just go around the water, back up into it to get them a little wet, give them a spin, and then stage the car. I picked up a 1/10.5, right? That's the difference, you know? When you're dealing with a car like this, just clean the tires off. If it's a clutch car, pop the clutch, let them spin hard for a few seconds, and then stage. If it's an automatic car, power brake it, do whatever you have to do, but as soon as you get to the point that they're going to start smoking, stop. That's a treaded, normal, everyday street tire. Then you get to, in the old days it was easy, right? If you were going to run slicks or drag tire, everything was biased. You had different compounds, right? You had different sizes, you had different compounds, like 5 different compounds, 6 different compounds, but it was pretty straightforward. Today, you've got biased tires like the old days. You've also got drag radials like this thing. You've got them with treads, without treads like this, all different types. Some of them require a burnout. They'll say, now here's what you have to know about this, right? If you're running a specialized drag tire, it doesn't matter whether it's a biased tire or a radial, whether it's got some tread pattern or it's completely slick like this, go by the manufacturer's recommendations. They'll tell you what temperature the compound of this rubber is intended to be used at. A lot of them will say no burnout, don't do a burnout. That doesn't mean you don't clean the tires. They're saying don't smoke the tires, don't go crazy smoking the tires. Just clean them off. Get that top surface rubber off, any dirt. Remember, you're driving this thing through the pits, up in the staging lanes, and it's picking up all of the dust, all of the dirt, especially if you've made a run or two and it's got some sticky on it from the track. That stuff is all over this tire. Now when you stage the thing, you're going to spin them. So what you want to do with this is just, if the manufacturer recommends no burnout, you're still going to clean them off, the same way you would with a regular street tire. Now as far as temperature goes, generally speaking, and this is different for generally speaking, you want the tire temperature to be within 15 or 20 degrees of the track surface temperature. You don't really need, for that kind of temperature differential, you don't need a heat gun or anything like crazy. Just feel the track, feel the tire. If they feel similar, you're in the ballpark. If the tire is cold, then yeah, go ahead. Your first pass of the day, do a decent burnout with it, get the tire temperature up, and then for the rest of the day, it'll probably stay around even. So that's pretty much it. And again, like I said, now you get into a different class of cars. You get into the lighter weight cars with high horsepower, big tires, or even a small tire drag cars. That's a different animal. You're talking about with traction compounds, pimp juice, and different prep, different circumstances. Do your research before you actually go out and run the car. Go online, go to the forums, Google the type of tire that you're running, get opinions from people who are running these things on a regular basis, and they'll tell you, yeah, it works best, at 22, I do a half a burnout, I do a light burnout, I don't do any burnout at all. Do your homework, because they're all different. There's like a countless number of variations of these things out in the market these days. It's not as simple as it was, let's say, 15 to 20 years ago. So that's it. I hope you got something out of that. I'll see you tomorrow.